Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that I think a lot of us find a little bit tricky. Sometimes those modal verbs would have, could have, and should have.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these verbs really, they allow us to kind of step into this realm of what we call the imaginary past.
Yeah, the imaginary past. I love that.
Yeah, it's like exploring these possibilities, these alternative realities that never actually happened.
It's like having a time machine in our heads a little bit, right?
Exactly.
But it's also really easy to kind of get tripped up on the grammar.
Yeah.
Now maybe you can help us unravel this a little bit.
Sure.
Where should we start?
Well, I think a good place to start is with would have.
Okay, would have.
This one's all about imagining different outcomes. You know, exploring that fork in the road where you took one path, but with would have, you can envision what might have happened if you'd taken the other.
Oh, okay. So give me an example of that.
Sure. So imagine someone saying, if I had studied harder, I would have aced that exam. So they're not just stating a fact. They're painting a picture of a different reality based on a changed action.
So it's like looking back and saying, huh, what if things had gone differently?
Exactly.
I think we've all had those moments, right?
Absolutely. And would have lets us articulate those thoughts. You know, it lets us explore how even small decisions can lead to very different outcomes.
That's pretty profound when you think about it. You know, we often focus on the choices that we made, but would have kind of gives us permission to ponder those paths not taken.
It does. And I think it's a very powerful tool for reflection.
Okay, so would have is all about these alternate realities.
Yeah.
What about could have? I feel like that one's a bit more nuanced.
Yeah, you're right. Could have is a bit more complex.
Right.
While it also deals with this imaginary past, it introduces the element of possibility.
Oh,
For instance, someone might say, if I had more time, I could have finished that project.
okay.
So that suggests that the potential was there, but it wasn't realized.
Oh, so it's not just about a different outcome. It's about a missed opportunity.
Yeah, precisely. It highlights those moments where we had the ability or the resources to do something, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
Like if only I had,
Yeah.
it can be a little bit bittersweet to think about.
It can, but, could have isn't always about missed opportunities.
Oh, okay.
It can also express uncertainty about the past. For example, I could have left my phone at the restaurant.
Right.
So here, it's not about regret or potential. It's about acknowledging a possibility, but without certainty.
You're not sure if it happened, but it's definitely on your list of possibilities.
Exactly. It's a way of expressing a lack of definite knowledge about a past event. And, it can also be used to subtly criticize someone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, imagine hearing, you could have told me about the meeting sooner.
Ooh, yeah.
So there's an implied message there, isn't there?
Yeah, I can hear that. It's like a gentle nudge, but there's a little stinger in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It allows for a less direct form of criticism, but the message is still very clear, and could have can also be used to describe narrowly avoiding a negative situation.
Okay.
So think of someone saying, you could have been seriously hurt.
Wow. So could have really is a multitasker.
It is.
Missed opportunities,
Yeah.
uncertainty, criticism, and even like relief.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much nuance is packed into a single phrase.
It is, and that's what makes language so fascinating. These seemingly simple phrases can convey so much depending on the context and how they're used.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about would have. We've talked about could have. Now let's tackle should have.
Okay.
I feel like this one often comes with a little bit of baggage.
It does. Should have often carries a sense of regret or criticism.
Yeah.
Think of someone saying, I should have listened to my gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They're expressing remorse over a past action, suggesting they made the wrong choice.
There's a real feeling of if only I had done things differently.
Exactly.
Like looking back with a sigh.
Yeah, it highlights those moments where we recognize that a different course of action would have been preferable, often leading to feelings of regret or disappointment.
But should have isn't just about our own actions, right?
Right. It can also express unmet expectations or criticism directed at others.
Okay.
Imagine saying they should have been here by now.
Yeah.
You're conveying that something hasn't gone according to plan, suggesting that someone hasn't fulfilled their obligation.
So should have can be about both personal regret and these like broader expectations that haven't been met.
Precisely. It's a way of acknowledging that things haven't unfolded as they should have, whether due to our own choices or the actions of others.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got would have for alternate realities.
Mm-hmm.
We've got could have for missed opportunities and a few other things.
Right.
And then we've got should have for regret and unmet expectations.
Exactly.
This is helpful already.
Good.
Starting to get a better grasp on these tricky little verbs.
I'm glad to hear it.
But I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, we are just getting started.
So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and delve even deeper into the world of would've, could've, and should've.
And we're back.
You know, as we're talking about these, I'm realizing just how often they pop up in our everyday conversations.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're constantly replaying the past in our
Which
minds,
is true.
trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, they're very much woven into the fabric of our language.
I was thinking about the example you gave earlier with would've.
Yeah.
If I had studied harder, I would have gotten into Harvard. It's not just about that immediate outcome, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about all the possibilities that might have stemmed from that one different choice.
It really is. It's like
Yeah.
a butterfly effect for our thoughts.
Oh, the butterfly effect. I like that.
Yeah, one small change in the past, and who knows how different our lives might be today.
It makes you wonder about all those alternate versions of ourselves out there living those what-if lives.
It does. It's a reminder that the present is really a culmination of countless choices, both big and small.
And it's not just about personal reflection either.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how writers use these verbs to create compelling narratives.
Oh, absolutely.
Would have can add so much depth to a character's backstory.
Yeah.
Or create suspense around a decision they made.
Imagine a mystery novel where the detective says, if I had only noticed that clue sooner, would the victim still be alive?
Oh, that's good.
Right. It instantly raises the stakes.
It makes the reader question everything.
Exactly, and wonder about that alternate timeline.
Could have and should have are equally powerful tools for storytelling.
Oh, for sure.
Could have can highlight those missed opportunities.
Right.
Give a character a sense of tragic depth.
Imagine a character lamenting, I could have been a musician, but I let fear hold me back.
Oh, that's so poignant. It adds this layer of melancholy.
Yeah.
It makes you really empathize with the character's struggles and regrets.
It does.
What about should have?
Should have can create internal conflict for a character and really drive their actions.
Okay.
So you have a character who did something that they regret saying, I should have stood up for myself.
Right.
So that feeling of guilt or responsibility becomes a powerful motivator for them to make amends or to change their behavior.
It's like those words become a constant reminder of their past mistake,
They do.
pushing them to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple phrases can be so emotionally charged,
They are.
both in real life and in fiction.
Absolutely. They're not just about grammar. They're about tapping into the complexities of human experience.
Now, before we get too lost in the imaginary past,
Yeah.
I want to bring up something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The use of could have for criticism.
Right.
It feels like a very specific type of criticism,
It is.
almost like a passive-aggressive approach.
It's a very subtle way of expressing disapproval or disappointment without directly blaming someone.
Right. So instead of saying you messed up by not telling me, you say you could have at least warned me.
Right, exactly.
It softens the blow a little bit.
It does.
But the message is still clear.
It is, and it can be very effective in certain situations, especially when you want to maintain a more diplomatic tone.
Right.
However, it's important to be aware of the potential for misinterpretation.
Because it's so subtle.
Yes.
It could easily be misunderstood.
It could.
Or lead to more frustration if the other person isn't picking up on that implied criticism.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial to be mindful of the context and the relationship with the person that you're communicating with.
It's all about finding that right balance between honesty and sensitivity.
It is.
We've been focusing a lot on the cognitive side of these phrases,
Mm-hmm.
exploring these possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
regret missed opportunities. But there's also a strong emotional component, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Would have, could, should have are very much connected to our emotions, especially those related to the past.
It's like they're opening up this Pandora's box of emotions.
It is.
You start thinking about what might have been, and all these feelings come rushing back.
It's true, and sometimes those feelings can be uncomfortable to face.
Yeah.
But I believe there's also a very valuable lesson to be learned from confronting those emotions.
So you're saying that instead of trying to bury those feelings of regret or disappointment, we should embrace them
Yes,
as opportunities for growth.
exactly. By acknowledging our could have, would have, and should have moments, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our values.
Yeah.
We can learn from our mistakes, identify patterns in our behavior, and make more conscious choices going forward.
It's like turning those feelings of regret into fuel for personal development.
Exactly.
Instead of dwelling on the past, we use it as a springboard to move forward.
Precisely, these phrases can be powerful tools for self-awareness and personal growth.
Okay.
They encourage us to reflect on our journey, to learn from our experiences, and to strive for a future that aligns with our aspirations.
That's a really empowering way to look at it.
I think so.
It's not about beating ourselves up for past mistakes,
No.
but using them as stepping stones to become better versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And I think that's an important message to convey.
Yeah.
These phrases often deal with the past, but they can also be catalysts for positive change in the present and the future.
Wow, this has been such an insightful conversation about would have, could have, and should have. I feel like we've really explored so many different layers from grammar to emotions to even storytelling.
It's really amazing how these seemingly simple phrases can open up so many avenues for discussion, isn't it?
It is. We started by talking about grammar, but I feel like we've ended up delving into like the very heart of human experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
our choices, our regrets, and even our hopes for the future.
It's true, and that's the beauty of language. I think it's not just about conveying information. It's about connecting with each other on a deeper level, sharing our stories, making sense of the world around us.
You've given us so much to think about today. And before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on what you hope people take away from this deep dive.
Well, first and foremost, I want to emphasize that language is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in many different ways. These verbs, would have, could have, should have, are just a few examples of how we can use language to express complex ideas and emotions about the past.
Yeah, it's not about memorizing rules. It's about understanding the nuances of language and using it to communicate more effectively.
Exactly. And I think when it comes to these specific verbs, the key is to be mindful of the context and your intention. Are you expressing regret? Are you exploring possibilities? Are you offering constructive criticism,
Right.
Being aware of those subtle differences can make a big impact on how your message is received.
Absolutely. And remember, even though these verbs deal with the past, they can also be really powerful tools for shaping our present and our future.
That's right.
By reflecting on our could have, would have, and should have moments, we can learn valuable lessons, gain self-awareness, and make more conscious choices moving forward.
Well said. And every moment is a chance to create a new would have, could have, or should have.
Ooh, I like that.
It's up to us to write our own stories.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into would have, could have, and should have. We hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating exploration of language and the human experience.